LWO1 WeatherNet. Liftoff conditions looking pretty good.
The STS is ready for launch.
Ignition. Liftoff.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Ten, 9, 8,
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. It's Sunday, October 18th, and you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 8:25 a.m. Eastern Time launch from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Hello from SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Andy Tran. I'm a production supervisor here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast of our 14th Starlink mission. It's also our 18th mission this year. To date, we've launched more than 750 Starlink satellites to orbit. Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. Today, we will be performing 2 second-stage burns and deploying our 60 Starlink satellites at approximately 1 hour into the mission. The 2 burns allow us to deploy our satellites into a circular orbit, which in turn helps them get to their final orbit much quicker. At T-minus 8 minutes and 20 seconds and counting, all systems are looking good for an on-time liftoff this morning. If we, for some reason, are not able to launch today, our next earliest opportunity will be on Tuesday morning. Now let's talk a little bit more about the vehicle. On screen is a flight-proven Falcon 9. The 2-stage Falcon 9 vehicle stands at 229 feet tall, or slightly taller than a 21-story building. It's equipped with 10 Merlin engines, 9 on the first stage and 1 on the second stage. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage. You can see that we have some residual soot markings left on there. That is a key indicator that this rocket has supported previous launches. The first stage's job is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space with the help of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the rocket. For this particular booster, it will be flying for the 6th time today. Its first mission was in March of 2019 on our first commercial crew demonstration mission, and then again on RADARSAT 3 months later. It also supported 3 Starlink missions this year, with the most recent being our 10th Starlink mission in August. We will also be attempting to recover the first stage on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. There is a shot of it right there in the Atlantic Ocean. Our first stage is designed to be reflown 10 or more times with minimal refurbishment in between, and it's the 16th time we'll be flying a flight-proven booster this year, and the 44th time we're doing so to date. Moving on up the vehicle, on top of the first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage. It houses pneumatic pushers that allow the first and second stage to separate during flight. Above the inner stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum engine. We also refer to the Merlin vacuum engine as MVAC engine for short. Once the first and second stages separate about 2.5 minutes into the mission, the MVAC engine will ignite and carry the Starlink satellites into a circular orbit around the Earth. As for propellant, Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since the T-minus 35-minute mark. Our vehicle is a bipropellant vehicle, which means that we use 2 types of propellant, a fuel and an oxidizer. Our fuel is rocket-grade kerosene, also known as RP1, and our oxidizer is super-chilled liquid oxygen. We also refer to that as LOX. Currently, both RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and LOX will continue to be topped off right until the last minutes of the countdown. And lastly, at the very top of the rocket is a large nose cone. This carbon composite structure is called the satellite fairing. It houses the Starlink satellite and protects it until the vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing will separate to expose the satellites to space. It's going to be the 3rd flight for both of the fairing halves today. We will be attempting to recover them today using our recovery ships, Miss Tree and Miss Chief. There they are on screen right now. About 2 minutes before they're set to land, the team will make a go, no-go call to recover them depending on the weather and the sea states. Speaking of weather, we have nothing but blue skies on the East Coast. The vehicle and satellite and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now. As we get ready for a public beta rollout before the end of the year, the Starlink team continues to test the system, collecting latency data and performing speed tests of the service. So far, the feedback from the private beta testers has been really promising. Initial results from these tests have shown super low latency and download speeds greater than 100 megabits per second. During our last webcast, we shared how emergency responders in Washington have been using Starlink to help rebuild communities destroyed by the wildfires. Today, we'd like to share one more example of how Starlink is helping another community in Washington. In August, the Starlink team began installing the first of several Starlinks on the Administrative Center building of the Hoh Indian Reservation, as well as on private homes on the tribal land. The Hoh are a Native American tribe living at the mouth of the Hoh River in western Washington state on the Pacific coast. This remote location had previously hindered access to high-speed broadband, but after the Starlinks were installed, the tribe went from practically no connectivity to high-speed internet overnight. Starlink has now enabled their community to access online healthcare, share their small business products online, and also participate in online schooling. They can also now stream their favorite shows and movies, which is always a plus. The response to Starlink has been overwhelmingly positive, so much so that the community is accelerating efforts to enable an additional 30-plus households with connectivity. We're super excited and definitely looking forward to more partnerships like this in the near future. If you're interested and would like to receive updates on Starlink news and service availability, please visit starlink.com. We're just over 3 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. Just a few seconds ago, the transporter director began to retract away from Falcon 9, and the first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. We've also begun first stage engine chill. This is where we allow a small amount of super chilled liquid oxygen to flow into the Merlin engines to avoid any shocks to the system. At around the T-minus 2 minute mark, LOX should finish loading on the second stage, which will be the last of our propellant loading. And around the T-minus 60 second mark, Falcon 9 is in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. The Starlink payload continues to be healthy. The Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather is also looking great, and the range is green for launch. You can start to see that we're venting the super chilled liquid oxygen. In a few moments, we should start to see clouds formed around Falcon 9, and if we do, that is normal and completely expected for us. That is where the super chilled liquid oxygen meets the ambient warmer air of Florida and starts to condense. It looks like we finished LOX loading. At this stage, the Falcon 9 internal flight computers have now taken over the launch countdown. The first and second stage are also beginning to pressurize for launch.
LD, go for launch.
And there's the launch director giving the final go for launch at T-minus 30 seconds and counting. All systems are go for launch. Let's listen in to terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes our 60 Starlink satellites into orbit.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition and liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 chamber pressures are nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, carrying our Starlink payload to its targeted drop-off orbit. Moments ago, we've begun to throttle down our engines on the first stage in preparation for max Q. Max Q is where the vehicle will experience the highest amount of aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
And we've just passed max Q. In a couple of minutes, we'll have 3 events happening back to back. First is main engine cutoff, also known as MECO. This is where all 9 Merlin engines on the first stage will shut down to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation. Stage separation is where the first and second stage will separate from one another, with the first stage making its way back towards Earth for landing, while the second stage continues its journey with the third event, which is second engine start 1, also known as SES-1. This is where the single engine on the second stage, our Merlin vacuum engine, lights up and will continue to propel the second stage along with the Starlink satellites to orbit. We're about 25 seconds away from main engine cutoff. Got some really cool footage of Falcon 9 right now.
Stage separation confirmed.
All right, we had successful main engine cutoff, stage separation, and our second stage engine is now up on power on the right-hand side of your screen. Again, on the left-hand side of the screen is our first stage. It's going to make its way back to Earth to attempt landing for the 6th time on our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Next event coming up is fairing deploy. It should happen just a few seconds from now.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And off goes those fairing halves, and now exposing the 60 Starlink satellites to space. As a reminder, we will be attempting to recover the fairing halves today using our recovery ships Miss Tree and Miss Chief. We'll make the call about 2 minutes before they land, depending on the weather and the sea states. We're just over T plus 4 minutes to flight, and as the second stage heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, the first stage will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back towards Earth. The first stage is what you see on the left-hand side of your screen. The first is the entry burn, where 3 of the Merlin engines will reignite. This helps to slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn is the landing burn. This is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship. The first burn, the entry burn, should happen around the T plus 6 minute and 20 second mark, while the second burn will happen around the T plus 8 minute mark. You can also see that our hypersonic grid fins have deployed on the first stage. Those are the honeycomb-like structures that you see on screen.
Vehicles on a nominal trajectory.
They help to guide and steer the first stage back during descent. Now, the satellites on the second stage, we're sending 60 more up there to join the existing 750. So after today's mission, we'll have 800 Starlink satellites up there. The satellites will stay powered down until after stage separation, until after they separate from the second stage. You might be able to see some periodic bursts of gas from the first stage. That is nitrogen gas from our attitude control systems. Those help to orient the rocket as it continues to fall back towards Earth. And we're just about 20 seconds away from the first of two burns, first stage entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
3 Merlin engines have relit and are now slowing the first stage down before they hit the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. I have a few more seconds left on this burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
All right, the second burn will be happening about 90 seconds from now. Everything's looking great on our second stage. The view is of the Merlin vacuum engine and its thrust cone. That engine can produce over 220,000 pounds of thrust in a vacuum. We're about 30 seconds away from the beginning of our second and final burn. During this burn, the 4 landing legs stowed at the base of the first stage will also deploy right before we land. This final burn should last about 22 seconds. Let's see if we can land this first stage for the 6th time.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Terminal guidance.
There's a view of our
Stage
drone
1
ship.
landing leg deploy.
And right down the middle, Falcon 9 has landed. This particular booster has landed for the 6th time. This marks our 62nd successful recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage, and the 32nd time we've landed on this particular drone ship. Of course, I still love you. Great way to start off a Sunday. So now for the second stage, we're waiting for second engine cutoff before entering a coast phase.
Eco confirmed.
Expected loss of signal, Cape.
And we did see that we had second engine cut off. Waiting for callouts of a good orbit.
Insertion.
And we did get call out for a nominal insertion. Now the second stage is going to coast in this orbit for approximately the next 30 minutes. We're going to take a short break, but leave you with an animation that shows you where we're at in the coast phase. We'll see you back here at the T plus 43-minute mark for the relight of our second stage.
Expected loss of signal, Bermuda. Expected loss of signal, Newfoundland. Position of signal, Goonhilly. lost the signal, Goon Heli. Acquisition of signal, Diego Garcia.
I'm back. Engine chill is beginning.
Welcome back to the webcast for our 14th Starlink mission. If you're just joining us, we had successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. We were able to recover our first stage on our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean and successfully enter our first coast phase. We're now waiting on the relight of our second stage MVAC engine. That should occur in the next few seconds. This burn is a very short one, lasting just about 2 seconds. Shortly after the burn, we'll wait for confirmation of a good orbit.
Restart ignition confirmed.
You just saw on screen, we did restart that Merlin engine.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And that's what we needed to hear, a good orbital insertion. Now the second stage is going to coast once again for the next 18 minutes or so. During this time, it will start to spin along its central axis, giving the Starlink satellites the momentum they need to space themselves out after deploying. We'll see you back here around the T plus 1 hour and 2 minute mark.
Expected loss of signal, Garcia. Acquisition of signal, Tasmania.
Welcome back once again to the webcast for Starlink Mission 14. We're just past the T+ 1 hour mark and coming up on the deployment of our 60 Starlink satellites. Thus far, we've seen successful liftoff, stage separation, first stage recovery on our drone ship, and 2 successful second engine starts. The second stage has been spinning along its central axis, giving the Starlink satellites the momentum they need to space themselves out after they deploy. Each of these satellites weighs approximately 260 kilograms and features a compact flat panel design that minimizes volume, allowing for a dense launch stack to take full advantage of Falcon 9's launch capabilities. Starlink satellites are also equipped with efficient ion thrusters powered by Krypton that enable the satellites to orbit raise, maneuver in space, and deorbit at the end of their useful life. Starlink is in fact the first Krypton-propelled spacecraft ever flown. And we're just a few seconds away from payload deploy, so let's listen in for the call out of payload deploy.
Starlink deploy confirmed.
And now you can see on screen these satellites are slowly separating from the second stage. Shortly they will deploy their solar arrays and over the next few weeks distance themselves from one another and use their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their operational orbit. That's a very cool shot. Quick update on fairing catches. It looks like we had a good catch on both fairing halves, but the corner of the net on Mist Tree didn't hold up and gave way. We didn't have any impacts to the recovery team personnel, so we'll bring them back and see if we can use them on a future flight. And with that, we'll be bringing our webcast to a close. Thank you to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's mission. Again, if you are interested in getting future news about our Starlink service, head on over to starlink.com and sign up for updates. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great rest of the Sunday, everyone.